This is Nerd World Problems, things that matter to awesome people. So in this episode, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not actually going to be looking at a Sixth Doctor story per se, I'm going to be looking at the Hiatus. Now the Hiatus is almost regarded as an episode in its own right, and not a pretty one. Why do I say this? Well, the Hiatus was such a big high-profile event and so heavily covered that it probably had more of an impact on the perception of this era than its actual episodic output. I'm referring, of course, to Michael Grade's unceremonious axing of Doctor Who when he became controller of BBC One weeks before a new season was meant to begin filming. The decision was almost immediately downgraded to an 18-month hiatus. Now this is something that is extremely relevant presently, as we're just at the tail end of a gap year with no series. We won't see how this will have ultimately benefited or adversely affected the programme until it ultimately returns, but in the meantime, the series is slipping away and losing its relevance in popular culture. The only people talking about Doctor Who currently are the fans, the vocal minority, painting a picture of what Doctor Who represents in culture, and in some cases, it's not a pretty picture either. When Doctor Who came back in 2005, it was a new, fresh thing, shaking off that cliched image. Now we seem to be coming full circle, which is rather worrying. During the hiatus in the 80s, things were pretty much the same. Fandom was given its own platform, which probably did as much bad for the series as good. As fans aren't on the BBC payroll, they can speak openly and honestly about their feelings about the series. We do not discuss Doctor in Distress, because that is an embarrassment. Other shows were hoping to capitalise on the controversy by gathering panels of fans and non-fans just to talk about Doctor Who for better or for worse, and hopefully draw in a few extra viewers. To have this battle aired publicly on the news, on the front pages of newspapers and fanzines, was ultimately damaging to the series' public image. It was a sign of weakness, and both fans and the general public were looking to point the finger at somebody. Some pointed it at Michael Grade, and some unfortunately pointed it at the leading man. It was a no smoke without fire situation, so naturally the most recent chapter was the focus of a lot of scrutiny, and a lot of those faults put in the spotlight and aired over and over and over and over. If every programme had its worst bits replayed and scrutinised, no show would get past its first series. Grade cited his experiences seeing Star Wars and Close Encounters as his motivation for cancelling Doctor Who, in that they couldn't compete. Grade was in a position to rectify this, in either expanding the budget or looking at constructive ways to improve the programme and capitalise on its assets. Instead, he chose to simply kill it, because of his disappointment with superficial aspects of the programme, and because he just generally didn't like science fiction. It's a very poor attitude to programme making, as the whole point is to make shows for your audience. Make shows your audience likes and wants to see. Axing a show because you personally don't like it, and being open about that being your reasoning, is just ridiculous. It may not be important to you, but it may be important to your audience. You are just one man amongst millions, and as we know now, Doctor Who survived, but its cards were marked and the vultures were circling overhead. The planned season of Doctor Who was abandoned, and a new approach was required. With commissioning season 23, Grade had made a crafty move in extending the number of episodes to 14, however he halved the length back to 25 minutes, making this the shortest season ever. It was decided that as the series was on trial for its future, to reflect this in the narrative. Trial of a Time Lord was born. I hope you've enjoyed this episode-by-episode analysis of the Sixth Doctor. Please let me know your thoughts about the character in the comment section below, and if you want to see more videos like this. In the meantime, please check out my blog, Nerd World Problems, at drtripod.wordpress.com, where you can find typed up versions of each of these episodes.